Hello there, and welcome to my review of the Dynasty Warriors movie. This movie is based on a series known as Sangoku Muso in Japan, and of course Dynasty Warriors here in the West. This series takes the formula of classic beat 'em ups and makes it work in large-scale battlefields where you play a super soldier appropriated from Three Kingdoms lore and given abilities to mow down cannon fodder by the thousands. It's a silly but extremely fun gameplay formula that ran the risk of getting stale near the end of the PlayStation 2 era until they started applying the formula to anime franchises. They began with Gundam but eventually moved on to Fist of the North Star and One Piece. By mixing up the Muso formula with anime titles, Omega Force was forced to get creative and innovative with each spin-off. These days, the Muso games are no longer just a series of games, it's almost like a genre. It's spun off into Zelda, Dragon Quest, and even a Fire Emblem by this point. I feel I should mention the Dynasty Warriors games and its direct spin-off, Samurai Warriors or Sengoku Muso. They're always very profitable in Japan and very well known, yet their series is considered niche and a hard sell here in the West. So, with all this history, the only surprise to me is that it took them this long to make an actual movie based on the games. Sure, the Sengoku Muso series, or Samurai Warriors, had a very short-lived anime series for a time, and though there have been many films that have adapted stories from Three Kingdoms era, such as The Lost Bladesman, where Donnie Yen played Guan Yu, and Chi-Bi or Red Cliff, directed by John Woo, and depicting, obviously, the Battle of Chi-Bi and the events that led up to it. However, despite all that, there has never, ever been a movie featuring the lore from the games, which is, yes, it's going to be different from the lore from the books and Chinese history/mythology. So I tried to get information about this film's development. I did a Google search for news or articles, but literally nothing came up about the film's development. The most I could get was information that apparently the film bombed in China. And this does not surprise me. See, unlike what I previously mentioned, The Lost Bladesman or Red Cliff, the Dynasty Warriors games were always produced in Japan by a Japanese team using highly sensationalized takes on classic characters from Three Kingdoms lore. To make a Western cultural comparison, imagine if Japan made an adaptation of Star Wars A New Hope where Luke Skywalker piloted a Gundam to blow up the Death Star and could fire ki blasts to take out stormtroopers. Sure, might be fun to watch, but Star Wars fans would definitely stick up their noses at it. Now, the main story of this film is centered around a plot that Dynasty Warriors fans know very well by now. Dong Zhuo has displaced the child Han Emperor and is ruling China as a tyrant. As most of the gamers know, he recruits Lu Bu to act as a general, enforcer, and bodyguard. That relationship is broken when Dong Zhuo tries to take a woman Lu Bu is in love with, Diao Chan, as his wife. But before that, Cao Cao. Okay, now about Cao Cao. Now, the pronunciation of his name seems to change with every game. I'm just going to go with Cao Cao because my Cantonese pronunciation is horrendous. So now, Cao Cao, who was an official in Dong Zhuo's court, flees after aborting an assassination attempt. Eventually, he comes to form a coalition to defeat Dong Zhuo and rescue the child emperor of the Han dynasty. Into this coalition comes a displaced royal figure, the benevolent Liu Bei, and his brothers by oath Guan Yu and Zhang Fei. This trio has lived as wanderers for a time, assisting the Han dynasty while possible, while searching for a place where they could gain prestige, and they now become rising stars in Cao Cao's coalition. Now, much like how I mentioned in my review of Rurouni Kenshin The Final, in a series like Dynasty Warriors, there is so much lore there is no possible way a single movie can even make a nod to all of it. So the film wisely chooses to focus on a set series of events from early in the video game's lore. Dong Zhuo's usurping control of the Chinese court, Cao Cao's plan to stop him, the forming of the coalition, the rise of Liu Bei's fellowship into prominence, and Lu Bu's fracturing ties with Dong Zhuo. There's almost a little too much story here, and to present it all, at one point, Liu Bei and his group run into a Chinese mystic who may as well show up and say, "Hi, I'm the exposition dump. Don't mind me as I prattle on for a good 30 minutes to give you all the relevant plot you'll need in flashback form. Oh, and here's some legendary weapons from the heavens you were fated to have. Later." Yeah, it's a literal exposition dump that is the slowest part of the film. It's very clunky, but it's still pretty well done, or well enough that you don't mind it. And things do pick up speed again after the exposition dump is over, and then the movie proceeds at a very good clip. I'd also like to say that I really like how the film depicts Cao Cao's amoral nature as having ultimately good intentions, but the way he pursues those intentions are usually questionable at best, and at times outright appalling. The film has a scene where it's showing him and Liu Bei to have a yin and yang relationship. Liu Bei is naive and benevolent, and at times too trusting. Cao Cao, however, is driven by all means to accomplish his noble goals, regardless of how cruel or deceitful. This complicated relationship could take up an entire film on its own, but we already have the games doing a very good job in developing it. The film does a good job in its own right of depicting how complicated their relationship is, and it's really good to see a video game film aim for moral complexity. The film also does a really good job of replicating the appearances from the video game. All the characters are very well done and very recognizable from their video game incarnations. However, the real point of this film is the battle scenes, and they are spectacular. The money shot of the film is the fight with Lu Bu. It's a glorious action sequence with many over-the-top sequences, including a moment where Lu Bu, in the words of Pepe O'Hare, "Do a barrel roll." Yes, he does a barrel roll. I also need to mention the music. It has a passable instrumental score most of the times, but during defining moments it brings in the energetic guitar riffs of the video games, which I'm not sure how this shift in tone will make people who aren't fans of the games feel. However, I really did appreciate the fan service. The film acts as a prequel setup type of film, and by the end it sets up all the factions and the rivalries that we know so well from the games. It's a very well done film that does its gaming roots justice. As a film, it's a very fun action flick that goes hard with the video game style battle scenes, and the direction makes sure it's very fun and even breathtaking at times to behold. I'd give the Dynasty Warriors film a solid 8 out of 10. Take a point off if you're not a fan of the games. However, even if you're not, and if you don't know any of the lore from Three Kingdoms or the video games, the film establishes and explains itself well enough that I don't feel like knowledge of the games is a requirement. It's just a bonus. It's a very fun film, an even better film if you know the video games, and it takes me back to the age of the Street Fighter II anime film and the Fatal Fury anime OVAs. Definitely cue this up the next time you're online.